Welcome back to Business Success. I'm Chloe James. Jon Ostler is the man in charge of bringing Australia's #1 comparison site to the UK. We sat down in London recently where he explained exactly how he plans to do it. Here it is. Tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and Finder. What's the business all about?
So Finder is Australia's leading personal finance comparison site. We've been leading the market in Australia for about 10 years. And in 2015, we expanded into the US. And this year, we've decided to expand into the UK as our next market.
Fantastic. And that's where you come in, right?
That's right, yes. So I've spent some time down under. I'd been in New Zealand 13 years running digital agencies.
Wow.
Ended up in Sydney, Australia for 3 years. And then moved back 3 years ago to the UK. And you know, at the end of last year, the founders, Fred and Frank of the business, tapped me on the shoulder and asked me how I'd feel about launching Finder.com in the UK market.
Fantastic. Did they deliberately want sort of a Brit, obviously, to kick things off over here? And also tell me a little bit about challenges with bringing an Australian business to the UK.
I think it helps having locals, and luckily they'd known me for quite a few years, so that was a bit easier decision for them to make and trust someone to run their business and represent their business in a faraway market. So yeah, it's a bit of a challenge launching on the other side of the world, and so that's something we've been working through as far as communication. So a lot of video conferencing, a lot of Slack as far as communication tools to keep in touch with the core business. We have about 100 staff in Sydney, and so there's a lot of IP there that we need to tap into. And so, yeah, luckily modern technology makes it much easier than it used to be.
Well, Slack is a really interesting one, and a lot of the entrepreneurs I speak to on the show use that as a tool. How else do you do your sort of communications? Are you awake at all hours? and how do you kind of operate as a leader and leading the team here, and obviously bringing expertise from back in Australia?
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge. We've also got offices in Santa Monica and New York, and trying to get everyone on a video call means someone's up in the middle of the night. So you need staff that are flexible, and we were happy. We're pretty committed and pretty flexible to do evening calls or early morning calls. One trick we do video internal presentations and even meetings, so we can share those with other members of the team around the world, rather than doing meetings two or three times.
So you film them and then share them on, and people can watch them when they're in the office. That's really great advice for businesses, I think working around the world. How we're talking about the comparison market. That must be massive in the UK, I would have thought. Tell me how you're tackling it, and perhaps some of the biggest challenges and how you're overcoming them in these early stages.
Yeah, very early days for us. The top 6 sites in the UK, I think they turn over about £1.2 billion in revenue, so it's a significant market. It's obviously very competitive. The players have been established here for some time. But I think we bring something fresh to the market. Growing up in an Australian ecosystem outside of the UK, where everyone's been competing here. So I think we've evolved differently, got a different approach to empowering users to make decisions about switching products. So I think we're coming from a slightly different angle, and I think that's going to resonate with a large number of the users. Yeah,
I love the coming at it from a different angle, and I always like to ask sort of, your point of difference. So how are you coming at it from a different angle, and what are some of the sort of tools and tricks that you're using there?
I guess we take it more holistically than just straight out price comparison, which is sort of the traditional table of prices and you pick the cheapest, which is not actually how most of us shop. We very rarely go out and buy the cheapest product. We go out and we evaluate the quality of the product, the service, the reputation, the features. So I think there's a lot more to comparison than just the price, and I think that's one thing that we bring to it. We also try and inform our consumers, so we try and give them education in a non-judgmental way, and then really empower them to make the decision that's best for them with their own personal circumstances.
I love that you always say we, and you're obviously a very sort of team guy, which I think is great. Do you have any advice when it comes to building, the right team and hiring the right talent, especially in such a competitive space when you need to be moving really, really quickly?
Yes, no, that's people is definitely the major challenge. We've got good processes and systems, so it's people that's the key. We have quite a strong culture within Find. We realised that was our point of difference in how we run the company and how we look after our staff. And we try and build a company and an environment that's going to provide people with the best jobs of their lives. That's sort of something we talk about. And I think if we can communicate that through to candidates, then that attracts high-performing candidates that want a company that think about them and is a bit different.
So perhaps it's about attracting them from the sort of offset. So it's before they even come into the business, you're telling them, what they'll kind of get when they're a part of the business, which is great advice for leaders out there.
And I think that's part of having a kind of culture framework, kind of communicating, because we want to hire people that match our culture. We want to hire people with aptitude and attitude. So we have a bit of a framework. You mentioned teamwork and being we. So one crew is one of our mottos. So no matter what your job title is, we'll all band together as one crew and sort of sort out whatever needs to be sorted out.
A one crew hashtag?
One crew hashtag, that's it. Yeah, we've got quite a few of those. And empowering people is another key part. So that's really key to my role, is empowering people by improving their skills and their confidence in their roles, understanding their roles and really helping them be the best they can be. Yeah,
I love the empowering, and it's sort of giving people anonymity to really succeed and flourish, especially in that startup culture. It's so important, isn't it?
Yeah, so although we've got 130 staff around the world, we very much like the startup culture. So we like to test small, test often, and then invest in what's working. And that's sort of how we keep moving. We call it go live. So we just go out there, we get stuff up, test and measure, and just keep rolling every day. Yeah, fail fast, fail quickly, I think they say. That's fantastic. What advice have you been given sort of starting out our business in the UK and as a leader, advice you've been given and perhaps advice that you'd give to others in a similar situation? Yeah, I guess best advice I've always been given is written goals. So I've always, from very early on, from when I was 19, I always had written goals, both business goals and personal goals. And that's something that we do at Finder as well. We do 60-day goals. After 60 days, we celebrate what's been successful and we plan out the next 60 days. So setting written goals, I think, is very important for everybody. Personal advice, I guess, apart from the test often and be flexible and not assume that what works in one market will work in another market. Obviously, Australia, the US, the UK, completely different markets. So do your research, do your planning. Don't underestimate the amount of investment that's required to get into a market seriously. Tick those boxes and you'll be good. Really fantastic advice, Jon. I love it. Where to next for Finder? Obviously, great things, I'm sure you're going to say, but where to next? A lot of work to do. So we've entered 2 huge markets, the US and the UK. So those are quite challenging markets, but the rewards are there, which is obviously why we're here. We'll be rolling out in a number of other countries as well. And mixing up a bit, some emerging markets, some Asian markets, some South American markets. So again, really test what works for us and invest in those markets. So there'll be a lot more of Finder.com around the world very soon. Awesome. Well, they say if you can crack it in the US and I guess the UK, you can make it anywhere. So exactly. We thought we'd take on the 2 hardest markets first. Why not? Well, there you go, a high achiever. That's what we like to see. Just finally, Jon, we've got to wrap up soon, but what do you do in your personal life, if you have one, that you see contributing to your business success? I guess it's pretty simple. It comes down to having a very smart and supportive wife. So that's always put me in good stead. And also I've got two daughters, which give you that sort of unique teenager perspective on the world, which you don't get in the office, which in digital I think is very important. Excellent. Good man. I love that you gave them a shout out. Thank you, Jon, so much for coming on the series today. It's been great to chat to you. Thanks for having me. That's it from me at Business Success for another week. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Having success on our shores is one thing, but surely it's the dream of any entrepreneur to keep going and growing. Thanks, of course, for watching and see you next week. Good night.